Test. Hello. Hi guys, welcome. Thank you everyone for coming. We're gonna start around like 5 minutes. So for anyone who haven't gotten their pizzas, you guys can get some pizzas, some drinks, and we do have a lot of pizzas left. So it's first come first serve. So yep, we're gonna start in a few more minutes.
All right, thanks guys. Thanks for joining us, and please enjoy your pizza, but get a seat because we're gonna start the meetup officially. So yeah, grab the last pieces of pizza if they're still around, and get a seat. Don't be shy, you can fill up the front row seats. As always, Malaysians need to be invited to come forward. Okay, Chichuan, can help shepherd yourself and others to seats. Eat on the seats. Sure. If they want to, we can ask. Chen is forced to come forward. All right, cool. So yeah, so today is the 14th of September. So this is our September meetup, the third in-person meetup that we've done ever since COVID started. So we're still getting into the hang of it. And for today, we are lucky to be inviting Samrat, who is chair of the technical steering committee of the Baseline Protocol and represents the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. We'll get more into what that means later. And for today, it's all about Ethereum for enterprises. So if you are working for an enterprise or the government, or you know people who are in that space, the topic here is highly relevant for you. Before we get into all of that though, let's just do a quick sharing of the sponsors. So AWS has kindly sponsored this very nice venue for all of us. So thank you, AWS. And Etherscan's sponsored a bunch of other stuff for ETHKL as well. And to start things off, we will get Nick to share the typical monthly roundup. Welcome. Please give him a round of applause.
All right, GM and happy Merge Eve, everyone. So these are the wonderful things that have happened in the month of September. Could we go next? All right, so a few things have really captured the interest of Google, so much that we actually got a doodle of the Ethereum merge. So right now, if you were to Google the merge, it would give you an exact countdown of how many hours, not even days, but hours left towards the merge. So currently it is estimated for, I think somewhere around 1 p.m. The current estimate is around 1 p.m. for Malaysia time tomorrow. And we are of course celebrating that with a merge watch party, which we will announce in a little while. There are of course a lot more merge parties that you can join. Namely, some of them are ETH Staker, but definitely you can go around a few of them online and collect POAPs as much as you want. So of course, please do view the doodle while it's still there. Next, for Arbitrum Nitro. Arbitrum Nitro is how many people here have used Arbitrum to trade, to use, to transfer Ether very, very cheaply? Awesome, awesome. So Arbitrum has finally released their Nitro upgrade, which for us as users, we will notice much cheaper transactions and faster transactions as well, because they can bundle more transactions at the same time. And for those of us who want to get the very valuable Arbitrum tokens, we might restart the Arbitrum Odyssey, which was paused at the time because the Arbitrum network couldn't handle that much of load that was coming in. So eventually we paused the Arbitrum Odyssey so that we can go through the Arbitrum Nitro upgrade. But now that it's done, it might be brought back into so that we can go ahead and collect what the Arbitrum Nitro has to offer. Next. So this is for those who are doing MEV here. The Flashbots relay has been open sourced, so meaning that if anyone remembers over the last month that the Tornado Cash sanctions which are happening, anyone here got sanctioned? Unfortunately, yes, no? I hope not, but if your friend plays a joke and sends like Ether from a Tornado Cash address to you, you will be banned. So please don't do that. So with that, the Flashbots relay has decided to open source the relay so that we can get so that a central entity cannot censor Flashbots if they are based in the US. So similar things have happened with miners such as Ethermine, where they are dropping Tornado Cash transactions. So this is to combat this form of censorship, they decided to open source the relay. All right, so this might be relevant to some of us who convert Binance on RON, or I mean MYR. So anyone who converts, anyone who holds stables such as USDC, USD, USDP, TUSD, and BUSD. No, USDC, USDP, TUSD, but not USDT. Your funds will automatically be converted to Binance USD at a 1-to-1 ratio. So if you happen to hold any of these tables at the moment, they will be auto-converted at a date which I did not take note of, but I think later this month. There, with effect from 29th of this month. So it works quite similar to FTX. And does anyone here use FTX? All right, quite a few users. So if you're using FTX, you're already familiar with how it works, right? Yeah, they have a central USD for it. I don't think it will affect much of how you use it, because a stablecoin should give you the same conversion rate. But yeah, that's something to take note of if you are planning to continue using Binance. So yeah, there are two things that are certain in life. That is what they call it, death and taxes. The LHDN has officially come after us to pay taxes on digital currencies. So a circular was released just about published on the 13th of May, and based on the initial findings that we've gone through, it's covered a lot of the major scenarios of how you would use crypto and how it would be taxed. At the moment, some of the key things that you will not be taxed for, and is not be taxed for, is airdrops and fork tokens, ETH anyone, and then or any airdrops for that case, such as ENS, Uni, whatever airdrop tokens you might get, you will not be taxed on that. So the second thing, of course, is that you will not be taxed for is the usual capital gains. How they define it is still a little bit loose. So if you've been holding Ether for a while, you can pass it off as capital gains. Yes. So what is definitely taxable, if you're a day trader and you make money off trading, then that is obviously taxable. Or if you receive goods through Ether, which is, I think it's a good idea to do. You can, what do you call it? Then you are taxable if you receive Ether, let's say for payment, or you buy and sell Ether like as an institution, then that is taxable. And next, just like very recently this afternoon, Luno has added Solana and ADA to the trading list. So we welcome the multi-chainers to the local Malaysian crypto community. And of course, you can buy and sell this from 21st and the 6th October, respectively. So this adds a little bit more of a multi-chain narrative to the local crypto community that you can try. So for some announcements that we're going to have, including the wonderful merge watch party, I'll have Harif to brief on the next, what we're planning to do.
All right, thanks, Nick. Please give another round of applause. Yeah, so as Nick mentioned, and if you haven't been living under a rock, the merge is happening tomorrow, unless in the 0.0001% chance that something happens, which is still possible. The merge will be happening. So the Ethereum Foundation has given grants to local meetups around the world, including us, to organize merge watch parties. So we tentatively, it looks like it will be happening around 12 to 3 p.m. So Nick here has been looking to organize this merge watch party. So we are looking to do it tentatively at Hungry Tapir, which is a cafe near Dataran Merdeka. For more information, we'll be sharing it in the Telegram group. So if you're not already in the ETHKL Telegram group, please scan the code and join, and Nick will share more info later. So this is covered by a grant from the Ethereum Foundation. So, you know, all everything's free, and the budget is covered. Next. So there's also a bunch of football enthusiasts in the local community. So Carlos over there has been pushing very hard to have a local futsal session. So if anyone's interested, we are doing it at 9 to 11 p.m. on Saturday. So that's this Saturday at 1 Utama, Padang. So if anyone, again, is interested, join the Telegram group and ping us there. You can ping Carlos or Asfar, or you can talk to them today to get more information on that as well. Few more announcements. So there's a couple people in the community as well who are very passionate about an idea of a hacker house, and we're looking to get interest if anyone who is a builder. So please be very clear that there is some filtering that will be done. Only if you are a builder. We are looking to get like a hacker house somewhere in KL for not just local builders, but even digital nomads, for example, who come to KL to kind of rent a place together and build magical stuff together. Other than that, we are planning a Zoom meetup with the BLS wallet team from the Ethereum Foundation. Chi Chuan here is planning it for next Thursday, 8 p.m. So if any questions, please ask him. And the meetup page hasn't been created yet, but we will be creating it shortly. And lastly, there is an ETH Online hackathon that is going on for the whole of September. And from KL, we actually have 2 teams who have joined. And on that note, I'd like to invite Chi Chuan to share a little bit about his and others' hackathon experience, including this ETH Online one. So please welcome Chi Chuan.
Thanks, Arif. Okay, hi everyone. Glad to be seeing all of you. My name is Chi Chuan. So I'll be talking about what are current plans that we have. So past, current, and future hackathons that we have from ETHKL, we have participated. So the first one really comes from ETHSO. To be honest, that was my first hackathon. I dragged a couple of friends like Chen over here. It was Carlos's idea and for us to go and participate in ETHSO. That was our first hackathon. So we have 3 members from ETHKL. One we met from Korea, and we were hacking around for 1 week. And our project was built on Starknet. This thing is called Build Guild. So next, yeah, just a couple of photos of how it looks like at the end. You are able to log in here, create your account. Next please. And yeah, this is how it looks like, whereby people can create a project and get donations from a project. And at the end of the donation period, you get match against a pool of funds using the quadratic funding algorithm. And this is what we have built throughout the 1 week. And afterwards, we gather more people. And we participate in this thing called the Starknet House Hackathon. We have 70 members, some of which are here, including the members from ETHSO. So it was, I think, around like 5 days, and it was an online hackathon. It's also on Starknet. And we built this thing called Starkstream. It's a platform whereby we are able to send funds to someone in a stream fashion. That means you are able to send you are able to send funds in, how can I say, in duration. For example, like 5 ETH per month or something, that kind of rate. So yeah, this is our second hackathon. And the next one, which is currently ongoing now, it's ETH Online. We have 10 hackers and 2 projects they were building. One of them is Lepak DAO. That is the name of the hacker house that we are planning to have. So we are making that into our hackathon project. Another one is DChat. It's basically a decentralized chat whereby you are able to also send funds within the app. So we have a couple weeks more to go, and we are still building it. So hopefully we will be able to share it to you guys when it's done. And what's going on after that? So future plans. What we want builders, hackers, or people with ideas. Not necessarily that you have to be builders. You can be project managers, UI designers. Feel free to join us. So probably the next hackathon, in real life or not, or virtual, we can have more teams from Malaysia, and we'll all like build together, and it will be very fun. So that's the end of my short presentation. I hope you enjoyed, and hope to see you guys in the next one.
All right. Thanks, Chi Chuan. And when you win those juicy dollars from ETH Online, you know who to belanja. Okay, so now back to our main agenda. And so today we are lucky to welcome Samrat. Samrat is a tech and strategy consultant with a lot of background in consulting, including KPMG, Deloitte, and Accenture, and currently is working for EC Council, which is a cybersecurity firm based out of Malaysia, but services people around the world. So he's also part of multiple open source initiatives, currently representing EEA, which is the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, and is also, as mentioned, the chair of the technical steering committee of the baseline protocol. So without further ado, if the slides work, I would like to invite Samrat, and the topic for today is baseline boleh. So please welcome Samrat.
Yes. Thank you, Arit. It's good to see you all, and as he says, IRL events are always good. We never knew the importance of IRL events, till the time it became a luxury. So good to see you all, and thank you so much for having me. My name is Samrat, and Harith has already spoken a lot of good things about me, so I won't bore you more with my background. But essentially, what I'm trying to do is trying to be a bridge between corporates and the blockchain world. Web3 is something very, very new for corporates and governments and a lot of policy people. So I try to work with, governments or strategy makers, etc., to try and translate things for them. Be it, it can be as simple as what does it really mean, what really happens, what is the merge, why is everybody excited about it, why is Google making a doodle out of it, to complex things like how do we tax it, how do we understand who holds what wallets, uh, what's happening with Tornado Cash, etc. So it's a wide range of things that we work with. My role with EEA. So what is EEA? Let's start with that. Okay, so I'm not going to tell you a lot about Ethereum because I think all of you are already Ethereum fans. These are standard EEA slides. So I'm just going to start with what is EEA. EEA is Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. As the name suggests, it is supposed to be making Ethereum easy for enterprises. So that's the way I like to put it. Instead of saying it attracts enterprises, it is there to help enterprises adopt Ethereum as a blockchain of choice. It's run by the co-founders of Ethereum. So Ethereum Foundation is a stakeholder in EEA, and Joe Lubin directly he runs this. I mean, there are a lot of strategic initiatives which he's driving himself, or there are people from Vitalik's office who drive projects under EEA. So it's directly governed by the co-founders of Ethereum, and there are others as well. As you know, there are these different foundations which run under these people as well. There's EF, which is the most active with developers. EA is most active with community members. So I'm just going to show you some numbers. It's about Ethereum. All of you know about it, but what we can do is we can all give ourselves a round of applause for being believers on Ethereum. So let's hear it for Ethereum and the 8,000 almost 9,000 nodes which run on Ethereum. I crack this joke a lot. You look at the number, it is 8851. There's some loose change left for 9,000. But I tell people that that loose change is the number which a lot of blockchains has as their validators. so Ethereum is doing that well on security. One thing I'm really proud of is the tens of thousands of developers. So I think a good number of you are also here who are developers on Ethereum. Look at the number of totally logged on DeFi projects. I think it just gives a sense of adoption. Okay, and I'm going to touch a little bit on more on adoption a little later. There are active DApp users. Look at the numbers again. So these are just testaments of saying that this platform goes far and wide, and the security and privacy is unmatched. Of course, it cannot halt because 20 people thought that it's a good idea to halt the blockchain. A little about EEA. So it's extremely decentralized. It's run by it's a member-driven organization. Okay, but the good thing is you can find all the solutions that you're looking for in the Ethereum world. So when you become a member, it is run by that board, very efficient board of some of the largest companies in the world, and of course supported by the co-founders of Ethereum. There are these 9 working groups. So what happens in the working groups is you come up with some ideas, you come up with you can say this is something which is currently of interest. So for example, the recent work group which has come up is called DRAMA. That's an acronym for decentralized regulatory something. I will send you that name. It's very interesting. There are 100+ members. Actually, there are almost 200 members now, and which are spread across 30+ countries. So that just shows that how wide, that the variety of people, the diversity of people which is available within the EA ecosystem. So, and when I say ecosystem, it is really supporting each other. So when I have a question, the way I became regional representative, because when I had questions, I just went there and asked questions. And there were people who came and responded to me within 5 minutes, and they were from all parts of the world. So it is extremely powerful to be part of such a community. You cannot know everything, But the important bit is that if you are at the right place at the right time, then you can get all the support that you want, and that's the power of Web3 communities these days. So extremely powerful organization. It is expanding this year's focus. I can also tell you some strategic plans of EE. This year's focus is twofold. Of course, while growing the memberships, twofold. One is training quality. We've recently created a new interest group. It is called ETH3Q, which is going to standardize all blockchain trainings being provided across the world. So imagine it to be like a accreditation body, which is also open source. So they're just going to lay down a standard. I'm part of that initiative. Just laying down a standard that an ideal certification on blockchain should look like this. An ideal course on Ethereum should follow this flow. And then there are other courses who will come, pick up this standard, get standardized. So it's again an initiative towards standardizing education, making people aware about what the right form of Ethereum should be, and coming directly from EA. Okay. The overall idea is to see these engineers who get trained, and especially from not so privileged parts of the world, to start contributing to the Web3 world. Okay. The other strategic initiative which EA is running this year is on content. So a lot of times when we are, so why I say this is important, because if let's say you're part of a government or you're part of a corporate and you're trying to build up a use case, you're trying to build up a case within your organization, and you try to come up to your boss and say, you know what, I want to do this, I want this investment. It can even, I'm not just saying it only applies to corporates, it can apply to startups as well. You may want to go to your investors and say, you know what, our Web2 journey has brought us here, and I think we need to now step into the Web3 world, do something which is which our competition is doing, or maybe an evolution to your business model. EEA is creating content which you can use to support your case. A recent example is the EEA Business Readiness Report that was issued, and I also shared on the group, on the Telegram group that we have. So as Harit said, if you're not part of the group, please do join the group. I will share that report again. It's called Ethereum Business Readiness Report. It covers all the good things which have happened on Ethereum network so far. It also covers our plans. It also covers real life interviews of people who have built things, who have succeeded, who have made millions of dollars, be it DeFi or NFT or any kinds of projects. You will also see the evolving platforms. For example, Polygon. Now, Polygon is something which I think all of us would have heard about, right? So you will also see their journey in that report. You will also see what is really driving their growth. Is it M&A that they're doing? Is it the token value? Half of that report is also educational. So it is targeted at attracting more people into this ecosystem of Web3 and Ethereum. So that's a very interesting one. Go through it. Let me move on to what you can do with the EA. Now this is something which you don't essentially have to be a member to do things, but the best way to access all resources is to become a member. But yeah, you can actually accelerate your business adoption. There is cross-industry collaboration, as I said. Hang on, what is this mic doing? And then there is the thought leadership and education. I think that's the most powerful bit, where you get to really filter out the noise. There's a lot of noise. You type blockchain, type learning on Google, etc., and you just get lost, and half an hour later you end up in a crypto project. That's not the right way to learn. You get the right kind of learning resources with Ethereum. If you want to start your journey with EEA, it's free and easy. You just go to the YouTube channel. You will see a lot of educational videos. The past talks that EEA has conducted, you will see all of those, and you can get started and just check them out for free. If you want more access, then of course you can join the EEA as a company or as an individual. And nothing can be complete without a whole ecosystem strategy. So this slide shows you the overall ecosystem strategy of EEA. Why it exists, and with which all stakeholders it is building. There are tons of interest groups, as I said. There are working groups. There are layer 2 projects as well. So there's a new community project which is recently launched on creating a standard for layer 2 projects. As of now, there are tons of layer 2 projects that you see outside, right, in the whole market. But they are now creating a standard for it. There are also tons of sponsors which you find within the EA ecosystem. I've even seen funding deals happening because a certain project did fantastic things and demonstrated in one of the EA demo days. There was also a job fair which recently happened. I think it was 2 or 3 months back, where it was like globally open. It was all online. Anybody could just come, and EA was doing matchmaking for companies, and even Accenture and Microsoft were hiring from there. So that was pretty amazing. Next, I will talk a little about baseline protocol. So it's a EA community project. Now, what that means is, has anybody of you heard about ISO standards, or what are standards in general? Any idea? Any vague idea? Anybody would want to? Nick, you want to talk about it? What is ISO standard as per you? It's just a standard, right? Standard, it's like set of guidelines which people follow to create something, to standardize something, right? That's the keyword here. So what EA believes is that, yeah, let me lay down some open source standards which people can follow to become standardized, so that there's fair competition, there's fair. There's also, by the way, there's recently launched ETH Trust security standard as well. So there's now a security standard available on Ethereum smart contracts as well, which was not there before. I mean, every auditing firm, the more money you spend, the better auditors you will get. If you don't have the capacity to spend money, your smart contract audit may not be very, very good. So that is eliminated. You now have a standard at least. There's some baseline which you can follow. The EA community projects, how it came into being, let me give you a little brief on that also. So there is Oasis. Has anybody heard about Oasis in Europe? Huh? Yeah, not the band, but anybody else. So it's a standards body. It's an open source standard body, which has created tons of standards in the past. Not ISO standards, because ISO is a different organization, but that has paid standards. Oasis does everything open source, largely funded by sponsors. So what EA did was, EA created an entity with Oasis called EA Community Projects. It said, I'm going to do standards work, but I don't have the expertise to do standards work. So I'm going to rely on Oasis to do what they do best, which is creating standards and managing these open source groups. So that is how EA Community Projects was born. Okay? History is boring enough? Okay. Now let's come to the interesting part. Baseline was the first project which came out of EA Community Projects. It was the fastest one. In 50 days, we were able to come out with a standard, which Oasis said that it is the fastest they have seen across the world. So it was a standard which came out. It is currently under ratification. It is not cleared by them yet, but at least we were able to come up with a specification very, very fast. So all thanks to the core team, which was building the standards. So how is a standard built? I mean, a lot of you I see are very, very young. In fact, I am the youngest in the group, so I can comfortably say that you all have not seen the standards work happening, right? It's really boring. It's probably 250 pages of text, which out of which 245 you don't understand. So it's and the rest are titles and section titles. So it's really intriguing work. We thankfully had some really cool people doing it. One of the co-founders of Hyperledger Fabric was the chair before me, and then there was an election last year. He was re-elected. I was elected to the technical steering committee, and we became co-chairs. There was another election internally, and then recently, because of health issues, he had to step down. But he still continues to be on the mentors. So he sort of brought his experience from building Hyperledger Fabric, making it such a success within IBM, and the whole ecosystem play that Hyperledger. How many of you have experienced Hyperledger, by the way? Okay, no point in telling that story because there are very few. So Hyperledger it was started by Linux Foundation, but it found real success because IBM picked it up, created a product out of it. So that's how I mean his yeah. I mean they created Fabric, right, and then they created others. Also, Intel also created some things. So it's a great success story in my opinion. I think the dev community was very happy. The corporate side of blockchain was very happy with Hyperledger in general. That's how also became a fan of Hyperledger, because most of my clients, while I was in Deloitte or Accenture, people wanted to see things happening only on Hyperledger. Oh, public blockchains is a strict no-no. I think that remains to be the case for some companies, some geographies, but not with everybody. And that's why this EEA is picking up a lot of strength over the past at least 2-3 years that I am seeing it. So yeah, coming back to, after all that history lesson, let's come back to the interesting stuff, which is also called baseline protocol. Why we are calling it baseline? Why we are calling it protocol? Protocol, easy answer first. Protocol because it is just a set of standards. It's not mandating anything. It's not a protocol like Polygon. I'm not asking you to buy a token. I'm not asking you to do a certain way, certain things. But baseline protocol is only giving you a set of libraries and methods to do a certain thing. It's only a way. I ask you to do it. Use IDs in a certain fashion. Create ZK circuits in a certain fashion. By the way, how many of you know zero knowledge circuits? Okay, again, very low adoption of zero knowledge circuits. So we will talk about zero knowledge today. And I will try to make it very, very simple for zero knowledge proofs. So I'm not a technical person. I try to be technical. I aim to be technical. I aspire to be technical, but I'm not. I'm more of a business and strategy person. And I have seen, this Web3 world is inclusive that ways that it does not really zero us out. So it is welcoming to people who do not know about Web3. Please learn things that you can on weekends. It's very interesting. Most of the knowledge is open source and free. I'll start with how baseline came to being. So what is baseline? We all know it was incubated under EA community projects. EA is the body which is trying to drive Ethereum adoption across enterprises. Now, what happens with enterprises? That the first thing that we picked because this was the first community project, we picked up what is the biggest problem of an enterprise. Can I have some answers from the audience? No. Let's just talk about enterprise in general. Let's forget about blockchain for a moment. Records? Reconciliations, okay. You've seen the question paper before. Okay. Right. Multiple parties in multiple processes. Okay, so many to many mapping maybe on processes. Okay. Any other answers across? What do you see? Imagine any company that you can, be it Lazada, be it, pick up any, Etika. What do you see as FWD? Record management in healthcare. So if it is insurance or healthcare, then you're managing people's personal data. Trade secrets, you have to really guard them, close them, keep it close to HSS. What else can be, what are the biggest challenges? Trade secrets are there, that's with every company. Audits are a challenge. Yes, I think, there are different nature of the audit. There are some which are regulatory stuff. You have to do this to be in business. And then there are things which you do for your own risk management. So, yeah. What else? Any answers? Processes are not cost effective and inefficiency. So you're saying, is it largely because there are errors, or is it largely because there are too many processes? Right. Right. Absolutely. Right, right. A lot of times I've seen, I've been involved in some M&A deals as well. So I see that inorganic growth, when a company acquires another company, they just struggle. I mean, there have been 3 to 5 year cycles of replacing systems, integrating systems. End of those 3 to 5 year cycles, they say, you know what, just let them be. Let's just not touch the system anymore. Let's just not have any more custom connectors between these two systems, because it just yields to more errors and hence inefficiencies, loss of money, and as you rightly said, there's a lot of reconciliations which need to happen. So it starts with single entities to network partnerships. I think that's the crux of why Baseline was born and what it is really catering to. From monolithic organizations, the business has seen transition into networked organizations. So instead of monolithic organizations where you would just see one organization operating in its own way and not interacting technology wise with any other organization, be it vendors or customers, then that era is far gone. Today there's a survey that we have quoted in the following slides. 75% organizations want to share data. All right, they are sharing data in some way or form. Can be in emails at some points, but largely they refrain from sharing it to third parties, because they say, you know what, we don't want to give out control to any data, to any third party. We don't want to give out control. We just want to get our business done. So two people you would have heard of, very important people in the technology industry, technology world. They are called Alice and Bob. So Alice and Bob are trying to do business. They're very well-meaning people. They are very diligent at their job. But at lot of times they struggle to exchange information if they're sitting in different departments, different entities, different companies. So Baseline is giving them a way of synchronizing data across their systems without sharing information by using zero knowledge proofs. So that's the one-line definition that I have for Baseline. So as I said, there's network partnerships. So you see the organization network growing. Here is the slide which I want to talk about the most. So these are organizations which want data exchange as their competitive advantage. They want to do things faster, better, more agile, with more agility. But where they really get stuck is, how secure is my data exchange? How secure is my partner which is using my data, which is storing my data eventually? And there's also this whole issue of threat service getting expanded. So if I give access to my third parties on my systems, how can I be sure that these guys are not fooling around with my systems, my accounts, my data, right? How do I make sure they're not selling my data? So all of those concerns come, and then there are costs involved. I can get audits done, but even those audits are reasonable assurance. I can't get 100% assurance. So there are these challenges which businesses face when they are trying to do things. They're just trying to, Alice and Bob are just trying to do a business transaction. Here comes Baseline protocol. I've already sort of explained that one-line pitch of Baseline protocol, but it's important to note it was founded on 4th of March 2020. So that's pretty old. Sort of set standard. The team is the same. They're not left. And for that to happen, it's a volunteer army. For that to happen, it's a big thing that people are motivated over 2 years and they're still contributing to the protocol. We started with 3 founders, which are ENY, Consensus, and Microsoft. And we are now at 16 official sponsors. These guys have literally put in money, engineering efforts, marketing efforts to make sure that the Baseline protocol survives. It creates the kind of libraries which we have committed to people, right? Especially, big shout out to, the kind of work which is being done by ENY, Accenture, and teams at SAP. SAP is a big promoter. I mean, they joined us in December. Actually, it is not recent anymore, but they joined us in December of last year as one of the biggest sponsors of this whole protocol. They have dedicated a team because when I say business processes, when I say Alice and Bob sitting in different organizations, the first thing they're accessing on their systems is SAP. I'm talking big organizations, okay? So that's why they said, what, let's look at how we can use Baseline protocol to create that environment where organizations don't have to send data anymore. They don't have to spend too much money on API security, right? API security is a big risk for a lot of organization exchanging data. Another, very important companies, which need mention, Consensus Mesh, which is directly run by Joe Lubin, is investing heavily on baseline protocol. They have dedicated a team called Baseline Labs within Consensus Mesh. They are ZK developers, best of the breed. They've picked up from different organizations and put to good work on baseline protocol. There's Splunk, which is contributing, another big organization. And there are upcoming organizations like, for example, Provide and Unibright that you see there. Provide out of the US and Unibright out of Germany. They are smaller organizations but doing really killer work. So, for example, Unibright, they made a JV with another company and built a SAP connector. So even if you're not using SAP on one side, but you can still, if your counterparty is using SAP, you can still start baselining with them. All right. So, in a nutshell, by the way, any questions so far? I've been speaking, and I don't want people to sleep. Huh? We'll do questions later. Okay. As Harit says, as the organizer. Okay. How is all this made possible, by the way? At the core lies zero knowledge proofs. At the core lies that ZK technology I was talking about. So here is the simplest example that I could come up with on ZK technologies. I attribute the ZK to a band, which you have on music festivals, which you have on your list. It can even be to a party, for example. But it just proves things. It does not give out any information. It only carries a proof that you belong to a place. And the color of the band, the texture of the band, what is printed on the band, all that can be used to prove different things. So those are the attributes, all right? So imagine if in a business transaction, if I were to prove certain things, I had to prove, what are the ranges. So for example, if I were to pass on, this is a very advanced use case, but if any of you is interested on the carbon footprint area, I could pass on my carbon footprint of a process from one organization to the other while I'm sending out a PO. And the same way I could get in return, I could send out that requirement and the vendor, so for example, somebody supplies me something, sends out an invoice, and with that invoice, this guy is now able to send me the carbon footprint of the product that they've delivered. Now imagine next level netting off, because that is something which is a big challenge currently in the carbon economy, measurement. Right? If you talk to your friends who are working in this economy, you will understand it has a lot of manual processes these days. So people just write it on a piece of paper. You just have to believe it, that this was the carbon footprint. And that's why there's a lot of greenwashing. Greenwashing is a new phenomena which has come out only because of ESG declarations that people have to make. Okay, ESG disclosures, which many companies are required to make, or they just make it because they want to make a big deal out of it, right? A lot of companies are doing greenwashing, and this can be a way of preventing greenwashing. We can have a legit way of passing that information between various organizations. We could pass on ranges, we could pass on as a payload, we could actually pass on real numbers. There is inclusion proofs, there is randomized proofs, there is equation proofs. So I can just take an example. So for example, I'm sending Harit a container, and I want to prove that my container has bananas. Harit's container also has bananas. I just have to prove to the system. My logistics partner does not need to know. They just need to know it's an item which is not in a restricted list. Right? Same applies to, there are tons of use cases we work with. We're talking to airport authorities, we're talking to airlines. For example, there are aircraft which is passing by. Elon Musk's aircraft was being tracked. So what if we could give this guy a zero knowledge way of getting transported? So I don't want to reveal the identity of the aircraft which is going. I just want the ATC to manage it. Right? Can it be done today? Answer is no. They don't want to do it, and there's no way of securely doing it also. I don't want unidentified aircraft to come in, but ZK can give those capabilities, and there are tons of other use cases which we have been discussing and brainstorming. and also funding within baseline. So, and when I say funding, there is a clear, very set process that we follow for grants. So, and I'm going to talk a little more about it when we have our chat later. But these grants are the interesting way how we are building baseline protocol, and we are keeping the community engaged. So there are currently over 50 core developers within the baseline protocol community, and they are actively contributing to the GitHub repos. You can actually go to GitHub and check us out. Yeah, I've covered that part. Essentially, what baseline covers is it's got these 3 core components. One is the core minimal set of business and technical requirements. These are very, very clear requirements. If you read the document, you will see what it really means, what you really need to have. We are currently coming up with test harness as well for the baseline standard. So let's say the standard has what, 50, 60 requirements. Now, does your software meet that requirement or not? Either you can get manually tested or you can have a test harness. So we're actually investing almost $100,000 just to get that test harness developed, and we will open source it so that people can come, they can create baseline compliant software and that get tested on that harness and go prove to the world that yes, they are baseline compliant. People can start baselining. So that's the thing I love the most currently. There's API data and data model that's clear, right? If you're a developer, you would know what to do with that. Permissionless CCSMs. Now that is something which is really close to my heart and the core of the standard. What are CCSMs? Consensus controlled state machines. It's just a fancy way of saying it's a permissionless blockchain. We currently, because it was consensus mesh largely leading the efforts, we started using Ethereum. But baseline protocol can be built using any blockchain, which is capable of, which is EVM capable. So pick up anything. We even had, actually there was a team which was doing, which was using Hyperledger Besu as well. So yeah, I mean, it can be done, literally it can be done using any EVM capable blockchain. It is just using blockchain as a frame of reference. So it has things on both sides of it. So that's why I keep saying it's not a blockchain standard. It's not a blockchain protocol. It's a security protocol. Okay, here is a high-level architecture. In the interest of time, I'm not going to deep dive into the reference architecture, but if you are interested, you can just click a picture of this. But it's very simple. This is also included in the reference document that you will see on our GitHub. I will cover 2 companies which are currently inspired by baseline standard, and they came out of the baseline protocol team. Both of them actually. Tree Trunk is co-founded by John himself, he was the co-chair. He's currently under health conditions, but he started that. That's also a consensus mesh company. And there is End Labs. This is also coming out of consensus mesh, but they're both using baseline protocol. One is, they're doing supremely well in the DeFi world, and they are into multi-party royalty-bearing NFTs. So this is something which is cutting edge. I think nobody was doing NFTs right, at least the supply chain of NFTs. So these guys literally treated the process of creating NFTs and made a supply chain out of it. So imagine that comparison. So now you can actually know if there is, there are multiple parties involved behind an NFT. Earlier, you just had to trust with the metadata which is coming to you. You don't have any provable way of understanding what the supply chain was. Okay, so that brings me to the end of my presentation today, but I just have a couple of more slides, the ways you can get involved with Baseline. This is some of our nerdy links, but I think the most important one is here, which is the most simpler one, baseline-protocol.org. You'll find all the other links there. You will also find a cool button called Get Baseline. So if you click on Get Baseline, you will be redirected to one of our sponsors, and they can help you get baseline ASAP. Or if you want to build your own, then you can always go to the open source repos. There's a bounty hunt, which I will talk about in Harit's discussion. And yeah, that's the end. Thank you very much for listening to me and bearing with me.
Thanks, Samrat. So, can I get someone, one of the volunteers to help with the seats? Samrat, I think we need to move your laptop away. So if you have any questions, let me see. Can I get a round, like show of hands, who has questions? Okay, so I think while we are preparing the seats, maybe you can ask the question first. One question, hopefully, not a series. For the others.
So you said baseline are set of standards. So is it standards for the zero knowledge solutions creating for the enterprise? This, but Hyperledger already had like a channel way of like sharing the data. So how it is different from that? I'm saying only Fabric.
I think we can have that question answered. But yeah, maybe we'll start with the simpler questions and then we'll lead up to the more interesting one. Okay, so Samrat, if we can welcome you to sit here. Okay, so we can take a quick 2-minute break while Samrat goes to the restroom. Does anyone have any thoughts on enterprise adoption? I think one question I want to ask Samrat is coming from a non-corporate kind of perspective, like I believe a lot of us are here. I think I personally have a sense of like, hey, enterprise coming into permissionless blockchains, like it's a bit, you know, aren't we kind of fighting against the man? Then why are the man coming to adopt this space? Does anyone have a similar kind of perception? Obviously, the Bitcoiner has that as well. Yeah, so that's something to explore. So if I forget to ask that question, please ask it or remind me to ask. I think, sorry, what was your name earlier? Dave. Dave here asked a very good question on what's the point of baseline if there's already Hyperledger, pretty much. I'm putting it much more bluntly. Anyone has any like sort of, not necessarily questions, but like feedback or strong opinions on the presentation earlier? No? Malaysians generally a bit too, not too comfortable sharing? Okay, so please think about those questions, and we want to ask the tough and blunt questions to Samrat while we have him here today. But okay, let me pass you this mic.
Thank you. Okay, did we come up with some questions?
Still the most controversial one is the Hyperledger one.
Yeah.
One from me, which I'll ask later also, is the sort of the difference between perspectives from someone who comes from corporate versus like a more hacker kind of perspective.
Yeah.
What the
I get
difference
that
will
a
be.
lot.
Yeah. But before we get there, I always like to start our sort of fireside chats with a couple questions just to get to know you a bit better. So yeah, how did you join the Ethereum space and like found your way into EEA and baseline?
Sure. How did I come into the crypto world? Can I start there? So I think my gateway to crypto world was getting a diploma in cyber law. So that was back in 2013, I believe. So I got a diploma in cyber law, got to know about what dark web is, why is everybody getting paid in Bitcoin? What is Bitcoin? You know, let's try it out. So I bought it as a gadget, but it ended up making money for me. I invested some of that money in a couple of startups. So that was my gateway to entry. While I was in my corporate jobs, fortunately I was in my consulting job, so I got to travel to 23 countries. It was extremely enriching to see the overall. I was living the hype cycle. As Gartner publishes in their PDF reports, I was living the hype cycle, traveling to different countries, talking to people about Bitcoin. Some of them, and at some points, I even felt that should I be telling people that I have Bitcoin, because seems like it is pretty damn illegal. And then there was a time when people were getting kidnapped, when it really took off, in value. So there were, those ups and downs. I was in a cold wallet, then hot wallet, then cold wallet again. Few days back, somebody sent me a link. By the way, guys, few days back, somebody sent me a link from Lazada, 26 ringgit for a cold wallet. I was, and what could I, I just responded to that guy, stay away from this, 26 ringgit, nobody can give you a cold wallet.
With the seed phrase provided.
So I think that has sort of been my journey. I learned on the go. It was, up until let's say 2017, 18, it was tough to find things, legit sources of reading, learning on Web3 or blockchain or DLT. At that time, DLT was the keyword to search when you wanted to really learn something, new things. So I think went through that. Also tried. So while all this was happening in the personal side, on the corporate side, I came back from Australia. I remember having that chat with my KPMG partner and like, sir, we should do this. It's something which is happening in 50 countries in the world. Oh, 50 countries, okay. But I think it is going to take another 10 years. And that's what the partner said. He said, we're not going to invest right now on this. There are other better things to do. You just keep doing what you're doing. And I had to leave KPMG because of that. I went on to Deloitte where, I spoke to the partner right in the interview and said, so he was like, you know what, we need to do things which make money for us now. And then we need to do things which earn us the reputation. So that was the good thing about him. About 40-50% of the times I was doing blockchain stuff. Remaining I was doing the other tech risk sort of stuff which I generally did in the beginning. That was something very transformational for me, where I saw Central Bank of India, for example, the Reserve Bank of India. They have a technology institute. They called over about 20 companies, tech companies, consulting companies, everybody, to come over, start contributing efforts on writing a white paper for banks. So now when central bank creates a white paper for the banks, that is when you see a J-stick in the interest, a J-stick in the adoption. So that is what we saw in India. Some groups were formed. I was also part of, I think, founding team of 2 major interest groups in India. One was with NASSCOM, the other one was led by the largest public sector and private sector banks. It was called Bank Chain. So sort of seeing how policy is evolving versus how the crypto world is moving. Definitely crypto world moving faster. Those 3 years are like they're like 3 decades in the crypto world. So I think it's important for all of us to understand, why, if there's an adoption challenge, why is there an adoption challenge? If the government says, don't do this, why are they saying so? It's a that's the why to crack first. And if we've cracked that while we're creating products, I think we are there, because there is no utopia in the world. I mean, that is yet to come, I believe, where we can just go build our companies and the government will say nothing about it.
So on that note, so you mentioned the standard itself is being ratified.
Yeah, baseline is being ratified. Yeah.
So when is there like a timeline that it could be done?
Good question. There have been.
Is it like when merge?
Yeah, it was like when it's going exactly like when merged right now, because there have been 6 iterations, and this is very technical stuff. There are times I have a big printout of that standard on my desk, but a lot of times even I fail to understand things which have come as a comment for us to address. But there are very important, very technically savvy people in our group, which is running the standards group. They are responding to it. So anytime soon, yeah.
So if I was an enterprise and I wanted to use Baseline Protocol, can I use it already, or do I have to wait for it to be ratified?
You can actually start using it immediately, and that would actually aid the standard getting ratified, because if a company says that I like it this way, then yeah, the version 1 can be finalized immediately. Otherwise, there are researchers who are researching, and yeah, they will keep giving us comments till the cows come home. So if a company wanted to do baselining, what they need to do today, they need to read the standard. And what can this company be doing? This company can be a SaaS company, for example, QuickBooks. Or I also saw there's a accounting software here, right? Like it's a local company. Books. Is it called?
I know of Kaki Tangan, but I'm not
Uh,
sure if that counts.
Yeah, so it can be actually any software, any SaaS which companies are using. Like for example, SAP also. SAP S4 HANA is a clear example why there are about 12 engineers working on it right now. So all you need to do is have a baseline pattern identified. Which fields, which data sets you want to synchronize. One is the public versus private debate that has always been on. Why should a company use public versus private? So Hyperledger essentially is private blockchain implementations, and until unless your work group gets big enough and you're happy doing that, baselining can be done using Hyperledger as well, using EVMs.
So for those who are not familiar, can you do a very brief description of the difference between public and private blockchains?
Sure, sure. So let's say if the nodes, for example, I showed on the first slide that Ethereum has got almost 9,000 nodes, which are validating transactions. Uh, while I'm not promoting that you just do baselining using Ethereum, but it's a good candidate because it's always on. Only there are, if you read the standard, there are two or three requirements, just two or three requirements for those CCSMs, the consensus control state machines. So the first requirement is they have to be always on, right? They have to be always available, and they should be, you should not be able to conduct a cyber attack, kind of a 51% attack on them. So I think and that's why it has to be independent consensus. So those kind of risks exist in a private blockchain. Private blockchain has got nodes, but it has got nodes which are controlled by a certain set of people, whereas the public blockchain is, it can be Ethereum, it can be for example, Polygon is pretty interested in baselining right now as we talk. It's not official yet, but we are talking to Polygon as well to start baselining.
So to play devil's advocate, Ethereum is not known to be cheap, at least at this point. So
Not fast also.
as an enterprise, like why use Ethereum if it's not cheap to make transactions?
Yeah. So that's why. So there's a if you saw one of the sponsors, Unibright, these guys created a new blockchain called Base Ledger, which is ready for baselining. And they said, yeah, this is one blockchain which has got everything ready. So they've created a Canva for baselining. You pick up the elements, you create your workflows, and you can start baselining ASAP. So it is purpose built for baselining. Similarly, Polygon can be used. So for example, if the Matic token, everybody knows the price. Unibright has got a token as well. It has variable costs because you never know how many transactions you will have in your process, right? They may be back and forth, but it is also eliminating your reconciliation requirements. Baselining. If you have baselining, there is almost, if you see we are currently engaging, and by the way, I forgot to announce this, but let me also do that. We are engaging IDC. A lot of you may have read their reports. We have already engaged IDC to conduct us a report for us, a research report for us. We're spending almost $500,000 on that. For people to get a reference point of what are the inefficiencies in the processes. So as you rightly pointed out, there are inefficiencies in the processes and there are over processes sometimes, which companies are not very agile to eliminate or transform at times. So IDC is conducting a survey for us where they will come up with, empirical data that, for example, few days back we did some research on our own and we came up with the fact that almost a third of the transactions which happen between two parties via email need reconciliations, and cost of every transaction which goes wrong is 50 cents. So imagine that to happen for a large company which has, for example, 6,000 vendors, transacting with them over the year. So it's a mess. It's a menace for some companies. I have seen, for example, look at the back office countries of the world, India being the largest one of them. I've seen a full floor of people just doing reconciliations. 400 people sitting on desks, 9 to 5, just doing reconciliations, on companies. So it's a big cost, which a lot of times the CFO may know, the CEO may not know, the cost of errors in processes.
So you mentioned cybersecurity earlier, and that's one of the risks with firms these days.
Absolutely.
And your day job is in cybersecurity in
Yeah.
Web 2. Could you describe some differences between cybersecurity in Web 2 versus in Web 3?
Oh, you want to have that chat also? It's important. So one is, why I say that this is important for both Web 2 and Web 3 worlds, because with data sharing, your attack surface is increasing. You have more points which are exposed to the outside world where attackers can hit, where different kind of scams can happen, attacks can happen. So so that's why cybersecurity is extremely important for companies, especially if they're sharing data, if they have automated interfaces between their customers, vendors, etc. The difference, I literally see no difference. If you were to ask me my perspective, the CIA principles for security still remain. If it is Web 3 or Web 2, does not really matter. I mean, if I have to ensure security of my blockchain nodes, they literally operate like any other server, which I'm trying to secure from outside attacks. The smart contract audits, I equate them to software audits that they were done in erstwhile days as well. There are very solid tools available out in the market which can do software audits, but smart contract audits, yes, it's something which by the way, I'm also launching very soon. So maybe sometime down the line, couple of months, we will also have a chat here where we talk a little more about Web3 security. But yeah, I think largely, fundamentally, principle wise, they're the same.
So another comparison then between Web 2 and Web 3, or how I'd like, and I think some people share the sentiment here, is for the difference between corporate and hacker kind of mentality towards
Yeah.
blockchain.
Yeah.
Can you explain, as someone who probably has a bit of both, and
Yeah.
especially having the perspective coming from the corporate side, how that might be seen differently?
I think that's a very pertinent question, which I also get a lot, and I'm sure you all must be also facing. A lot of you, maybe just like me, living two lives, with a day job and a night hacking sort of routine. So you may have. So there are two or three things which I see. First thing is motivations. What are your motivations? Why are you doing what you're doing? So it's extremely important, not just in Web 2, Web 3, but in anything that you do in your career or life. What are your motivations behind doing this? So I think very different motivations I see from people doing things in the corporate versus people doing hackings in general. The second thing is I've seen the median age of people working on Web3 is very, very low. So I consider myself as dinosaur. Sometimes I come across things which are really new, really cutting edge, may not be the best, most secure thing in the world, but innovation wise, idea wise, they seem to be fantastic things which very, very young people are working on, which you will not see in corporates, because in corporates, when there's a youngster who comes into the corporate ladder, they just keep sitting quietly, do their job and go back home, worry more about the traffic or the crowd in the LRT. It's very different. Here everybody in the hacker world, everybody has a voice. So very different that ways as well. And the third thing, which is incentives. I think it's extremely, extremely important for anything to be sustainable. What are my incentives? The incentive to do things in a corporate life is, you just get a good rating, good salary, maybe increment, maybe that's also a chance. Everybody goes to a casino in their appraisal discussions, but in the when you're independently hacking, you're doing things for your own selves. You sort of have an idea about what your incentives are, what you potentially can gain out of it, and of course, then all the knowledge that you gain, you take with you. As far as corporate life is concerned, you don't take anything.
Incentives is something we always think about
Yeah.
running this meetup and not getting paid for it.
know,
But maybe
I think we're all there because we are sitting at 9 o'clock on a Wednesday night, right? It's over
Yeah.
9 o'clock now.
But maybe what's one thing that, as a non-corporate person, we might not realize that corporates find importance in when they are looking at blockchain? Like, we want decentralization, we want like permissionlessness, but maybe what's something that a corporate person might value very differently versus a normal person like me and other people here?
Sure, sure, sure. That's also a pertinent question. So I think largely the major point of disconnect is always, private versus public blockchain. I can't buy tokens a lot of times because they are driven by what government wants, what auditors want, what their shareholders want, and unfortunately these three parties are very slow in moving on understanding what tokens are, or what the implications of holding tokens are. It was only until about 2 years back that companies started holding cryptos on their balance sheets. Right? They could actually declare that they have cryptos. Otherwise, it was not possible. So even for, let's say, a company like Unibright, when they created UBT token and they said, we can start baselining, the first thing that they said was, what, we are compliant with all GDPR requirements. We are compliant with all, your FERA FEMA requirements. Consider us to be like your AWS bill. The variable bill that you get every month on your cloud hosting services. Similarly, you will get a variable bill on your tokens. So they just say you have a corporate wallet, you just keep refilling it. Exactly like how you get AWS credits. Not really. They're not doing an STO, so they're not. Yeah, their token is variable. It's listed.
All right, moving on from tokens.
Yeah.
Another comparison that I think is pertinent and that we get your perspective on is like, so you've been in corporate and now you are also leading open source initiatives. Like, what's one or couple differences between like doing well pushing things in corporate and doing well pushing things in an open source standard?
Fantastic question, Harit. I think. See, I feel the pace of things is very different. So no corporate gathering can happen at 8 o'clock in the night on a Wednesday. But this motivated gathering can happen because people are worried, people are interested in a certain subject, and that just makes it easier to push things, drive things. For example, things which are happening in baseline. I said 50 plus core devs are working there. Now all of them are not getting bounties, all of them are not getting grants. Some of them are just working for free because they're contributing for an open source initiative. People who have created the standard, they are they're just there. I mean, I don't get paid to do baseline stuff, right? It's your interests and motivations have to align. So it's very, very different than corporates. Corporate is just you get paid, you have your time, punch in, punch out, that's all.
All right. So one thing that we didn't have mentioned in the slides earlier is EA also has done this enterprise adoption report. So could you do a very brief description of what it is and some key highlights for people to know how Ethereum essentially has been adopted by enterprises?
Yeah. So I think I already touched upon a little bit of that, but I will send out the report for people to read. A crux of that is half of it is educational. It aims at drawing more attention to Ethereum as a platform for businesses, for large businesses. For example, ENY, they had a lot of success. They have invested almost over $100 million on blockchain initiatives. They have a dedicated team doing that. Paul Brody, so EY is one of the co-founders of Baseline Protocol also. So Paul Brody is the one who leads EY globally, and he's been a big supporter of Ethereum and Baseline in general. And ZK proofs he's got a team just doing
Nightfall
stuff. Yes, so that's how Nightfall was born, and came out few days back. So that's that. And what else? We have tons of DeFi material in that report. We have tons of real person interviews. Even there are some failed case studies as well. Things which failed. For people, we've even gone ahead and listed that.
Is there one interesting anecdote that maybe the community can hear about?
I don't know if there's anything very, very interesting out there. I mean, they've even talked about food traceability projects there. That's something which came out. I think it was the first in the book when we spoke about blockchain. Got translated into traceability. and traceability was being dominated by Hyperledger, but even Ethereum has been used. I think that was something very interesting for
So
me
like supply
personally.
chain stuff, like
Yeah, the supply chain
tracking where
stuff. Featured about 25 companies on that report, but we did not stop there because we had a lot of interest in from various companies. They all applied. We want to get featured. We want to tell our story. So while we published the report, but as I said that the EA's this year focus is also on creating a lot of good content. So they're still open to feature companies. So if any of you is working on a company and you've got a success story to share via the EEA platform, please do get in touch with me. I can get you featured on the EEA reports, future publications, not the current report.
And are there any like sort of ZK stuff that developers can build on and potentially get grants for?
Yes, so on baseline, definitely. So there are two programs which are currently running on giving out grants for baseline. And the good part is there are 16 sponsors, and there is a rolling bucket of grants that we manage. So as part of the technical steering committee, which I'm chairing currently, we review every grant. We ask a lot of questions, and then we award the grants. The grants can be anything under $10,000. We have given out a lot of $10,000 grants, but if you ask me, is that the highest we've gone? The answer is no. Currently, also, if you go to our GitHub repo, you will see there are 3 RFPs which are open. The total value of those RFPs will be, that is really like nobody was applying for those grants. So some of our guys created those RFPs saying, guys, please come and apply for this because we need this in baseline. The total value of that is over $200,000. So people can really make some good money, do some cool stuff on ZK. So that's on the baseline grants. If you go to the GitHub of baseline, you'll see a grants repo. Just go there, apply for a grant. If it is relevant for baseline, it will get picked up. We meet every 2 weeks to review grant proposals. So it is processed really, really fast. We've disbursed about $150,000 already. And the good thing is with this grant bucket, the companies have said that as it gets consumed, we will keep pulling in more money. So it's currently bottomless, if I may say. We are getting a lot of support from the sponsors. Thanks to them.
And on the bounty hunts, how can any dev participate?
Yes, so on the Blip bounty, so these are not bounty hunts on a platform which is already created. These are unlike the bounty hunts which generally happen for hacking. These are Blip bounties, which are what is a Blip first of all. So Blip is baseline improvement proposals. Just like EIPs, we have created Blips. So if you can propose anything which can improve the overall baseline way of working things, if you can create something which can make adoption faster, etc., you can apply for a grant for that as well. So there is one grant for creating components, the other grant is for improving things.
Okay, so a couple last questions. So the merge is happening tomorrow. Would any of that change how baseline?
Because it is not dependent on any one blockchain.
I imagine, especially for the Ethereum usage, one thing is that it's more environmentally friendly, so that helps with the corporate support for it.
Definitely. So I can say that very happily with my EA hat on, that Ethereum is now going to become so that one big disadvantage of using Ethereum, which used to be POW, is now going to go away. So the ESG concerns are going to go out of the window very, very fast. I think that is something which is a big leap for Ethereum.
And the final one, so it might be 2 questions, but you come from an enterprise background, and blockchain hasn't, largely speaking, been used for enterprise or real world use cases. So what would be your favorite use case of a permissionless blockchain to be applied in the real world?
Okay, very interesting questions with a good context. So I tell this to a lot of people when I talk to them about blockchain. In fact, just a couple of days back, I was with a lot of, I think I met six venture partners, venture funds. They were like, yeah, what is blockchain? Why do we do it? I mean, they're in KL, right? I met them right in the middle of the KL city, and they're like, you know what, we're staying away. All we are doing is we are probably hedging, some money, we're putting in some money, we're shorting some things, but not really investing in startups. I think that's a bad thing to happen, because there's a lot of noise. That's what the world sees. In the corporate side also, um, what I told these guys, I'm going to tell again. It's the problem is that blockchain has created more experts than products. So if you search for blockchain expert on LinkedIn, you will see probably 1 million will show up. but look at products. How many products have actually seen production deployment? The answer is very, very few. Some of those few are actually listed in the Ethereum business readiness report also. But I personally feel the most value creating, in fact, the most promising ones. I would not call them my favorites. Every project has some gaps here and there, but I think my favorite ones are the ones. One is what is End Labs is doing. They are tokenizing invoices, and they are giving them a real world way of getting financed, which used to be a very, very closed industry. People who are really close to banking will understand what trade finance or invoice discounting is. Then, so End Labs is just making that accessible to everybody. Right now, it is so. If I want to if I want to start financing invoices, I can start doing now using End Labs. But earlier, it was just a very corporate thing which only banks could do. So that is one. It's opening up, and the other is CFI. The whole carbon financing. I mean, carbon is very close to my heart, the carbon economy, which I also feel that very soon we're going to see a lithium economy because of the whole battery vehicle adoption. So those carbon financing projects where they're using DeFi to start financing, carbon projects. I think that is something which is truly very high potential stuff. Yeah, look at Carbon-Fi. Carbon-Fi.
All right, no alpha yet. And with that, thanks a lot, Samrat, and please give him a round of applause, everyone.
Thank you very much, guys. So there's one more thing which probably I can talk about, which is extremely important for people who are interested in Ethereum. It's called the ETH Adoption DAO, Ethereum Adoption DAO. We have recently created it. It was led by Polygon. The founders of Polygon are all involved in this DAO. I happen to be one of the 6 core team members in the DAO. It's the website is live, so you can go check out ETH Adoption DAO, ethadoptiondao.xyz. And what we're doing is we are creating a DAO with one simple agenda to promote adoption of Ethereum. And there are very large companies who are already part of it. Maybe I can speak for some. One is Bankless DAO, Gitcoin, ENY, Consensus. Of course, Polygon started it. So we're seeing varied amount of interest from all these companies. They have contributed resources, money, etc. So it's the big treasury being built. The first thing we're going to start doing which is the simpler one, funding projects. And the second thing, most important, is start giving projects the support that they need to establish and convert into successful businesses, like regulatory stuff. So for example, ENY. Now ENY came up with 6 tax experts saying we're just going to give tax support. Now how many of the startups today in Ethereum world have tax support from ENY? So that's the high quality stuff that people are going to get if they become part of ETH adoption. So there is a big wait list. I think almost 200 projects have already applied for the grants. There's a big there's a whole scrutiny that we will do on projects. But once you get selected, you've really arrived in the right company of people who will take you to places. So for example, Gitcoin they just help you go viral. All right, so
we have a few things happening soon. So there's a futsal happening Saturday 9 to 11 p.m. Interested, you can talk to Carlos or Asfar. There is the merge watch party, which hopefully Nick can get the details shared after we confirm with the venue. So that will be happening roughly 12 to 3 p.m. tomorrow. there is a hacker house that is being planned by some members of the community. So if you are a builder and you're looking for a place to rent, then please talk to Carlos as well. And yeah, with that, we'll see you next month. Thanks, guys.